Okay, so now we're going to learn how to rehearse and customize the timings of presentations. This is useful because we will want sometimes the slides to advance on their own without us actually controlling them, but for them to advance based on how long it actually takes us to communicate all the information on the slide itself. So, for example, slide 1 might take 10 seconds for me to actually present because it's very simple. Slide 2 might take me a full minute because I'm adding all this extra information off the top of my head or based on the notes that I've added to the presentation. And it's very difficult to predict how long it will take to actually present each slide. And so what we can do is we can use the rehearse timings option to do sort of like a mock presentation to determine how long each slide should be visible for before we move on to the next slide. So let's start by opening the slideshow tab if we don't have it open already, and in the setup group we're going to click on rehearse timings right here. Okay, and then you'll notice that it's just going to start the presentation and it's going to start keeping track of how long we spend on each slide. So you can see that if I use the page down option, we'll be taken to the next slide, and the timer on the right is obviously the total amount of time that we have been spending on the presentation. The timer on the left is just the timer for the current slide. So the current slide is at 14, 15, etc. Okay, so let's just use page down again. And so obviously the timer on the left is going to be reset as we go from one slide to the next. Great. So we're going to now just sort of flip through the slides quickly, the remaining ones. Again, under these circumstances, we would normally be presenting each of the bullets in the slide itself and seeing how long it takes for each of these slides. But we've done enough to have enough timings to play around with. So let's go ahead and click on yes when it's asking us how long, or if we want the presentation to last 49 seconds in total, which is obviously very, very low even for a short presentation like this one. But again, it's enough for us to work with. So let's, once we get to the very end of the slideshow, and after we've pressed yes, let's click on the View tab, and let's go to the Slide Sorter view, and you'll actually be able to see the timings associated with each slide. Some of those last ones are just 0 seconds because we just kind of flipped through them. Your timings will obviously be different than mine, unless you followed along perfectly, but there's no point in doing that. Once you get to slide 3, or let's just actually select slide 3, if you go to the Transitions tab, you'll notice that it says that we should advance from one slide to the next after, and then it says 19.11 seconds. Right? And so that 19.11 was just based on how long it took me to get from slide 3 to slide 4. We can still manually change this to whatever we want it to be. Okay? But that's where this information is actually saved, is under the Transitions tab. Okay, so let's just change this one to just a simple, 5 seconds. So just hit 5 and then hit enter. So we're just manually overriding the rehearsed timings that we've already set in place at this point. Okay, so let's go to slideshow, and let's then go to setup slideshow. And so something else that might happen is that, we are not actually presenting the presentation, but we're having the presentation be visible to individuals who are walking past some kind of kiosk. So let's say that we're advertising this run-of-river power plant in the middle of a mall, for example, and we just want the slides to advance from one slide to the next and then loop, so that anyone who's walking past can learn about this run-of-river power plant. This would typically mean that there's no manual changes that are being made on the part of the presenter, because there really is no presenter. It's just the presentation sort of presenting itself in a certain way. So let's click on Browse at a kiosk. We'll just change it to that option. And we'll also say that we only want anyone who's walking past the kiosk to see slides 1 to 3. Okay, so where it says from, we'll do 1 to 3. And then we'll go ahead and click on OK. And now in the slideshow tab, So still same tab we were in before. In the setup group, we're going to check off the box that says use timings. Okay, so we're going to be using these timings for our kiosk presentation. So let's go ahead and hit F5, and you'll see that a few seconds will go by on this first slide. I'm not pressing anything right now, I'm just waiting. So we'll just give it a second. Okay, and then it'll advance to the next slide based on our rehearsed timings. So we'll just give this slide a second to progress as well. But you'll notice that by the time I get to slide 3, and I'm transitioning from slide 3 to what would normally be slide 4, it'll actually just take me back to slide 1. So let's just give it a second here. So again, currently on slide 3, and we'll just wait. Okay, we're back on slide 1, and then it just keeps looping again and again and again, so that again anyone who's walking past our kiosk can be informed about whatever information we're trying to communicate. Let's hit escape so that we return to the slide sorter view, and let's actually change things back to the way that they were. So let's go to setup slideshow again, and let's go back to presented by speaker, and then let's go back to manually, because that's typically what we're going to be doing. That's just something I wanted to show you.